92.7 WOBM, Shawn and Sue, and it's our pleasure right now to welcome in our special guest. Steve Perry is joining us, talk about a new project he's got going on. Good morning, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Good morning to you, too.
Steve Perry, how cool.
You're so sweet, Sue. Thank you.
Hey, it's called Traces, Steve.
Yeah.
It's a brand new album. Let's talk a little bit about this. Now, it's a new project for you. What was the inspiration behind getting this album out?
Well, you know, it'd been quite a few years since I'd actually made a record, or actually since I'd left the business. And there was a big downtime. And I just kind of went back and discovered my old life and the friends and the places in my hometown where I was raised. And if you look at the cover really closely, there's a lot of traces of the past and traces of memories and parts of my life that really are in the music and in the cover.
Yeah, you know, I was looking at some of the notes here, and they talk about how, like, the images on the cover of the album represent traces of the past.
Right.
You know, how did you incorporate that?
Well, I talked to the artist, who was Jeff Wack. I told him I want a cover that has these iconic little photos that I had sitting around, like little parts of a city, or for instance, the theater in my hometown where my dad used to sing is still there, and my old house at that time was still there. The Golden Gate Bridge is still there, you know, thank God. And so all these places that have impacted my life emotionally are just in the music, and I wanted them on the cover.
Very nice. Hey, let's talk a bit about the production of this. You decided to go with a lot of live musicians here. You know, in this day and age, well, you could do a lot with a PC, a laptop, and a good battery.
Yeah.
But you decided to go a different route with all this.
Well, you know, I sketched and wrote the material with whatever kind of rhythms I had, or loops or clicks, just to have something to lean against to write the ideas. And that decision was weighing on me what direction to produce the record into. Once I started hooking up with Tom Flowers, my co-producer, and also he played guitar in a couple of songs, by the way. Once we started talking about it, we kind of agreed that I think emotionally, if I can work with a Vinnie Colaiuta, a drummer like that, if I can work with Steve Ferrone or Josh Freese, I probably should, you know? And so I did.
Makes a lot of sense. How about No Erasing? That's the first song. Now, in fact, we're going to hear that in just a couple of minutes. But that's the first single. Tell us a little bit about that.
No Erasing was a song that came about just on its own about a class reunion. You know, I went to a class reunion. Well, I shouldn't really bring this up because it might bust somebody out, but it was a class reunion. We'll leave it neutral. And running into somebody you knew back in high school, you haven't seen them in a long time. You get in her car and you kind of go off to the spot where you used to smooch together and talk, and you get in the back seat of her car, and maybe you have a couple of smooches, nothing serious, because you both got your own lives, you know.
Oh my
but you
God.
talk about what it was like back in the day when you were in high school together, and it's just, you know, that connection, that emotional connection that everybody has at first sort of love, it never goes away. And so the song is about that. It's also about, you know, having that emotional reunion with the fans.
Yeah, and that's always so important, isn't it, after, you know, some time here and folks remember. I got to tell you a real quick story, Steve, before we play the single. I was visiting a friend of mine. He had lived here on the East Coast in Jersey, but he moved out to California. And this was, you know, back in the late 70s when he moved out to California. And I went out there to visit him. And he moved to a place called Livermore, California. And it was on the mainland side of, I guess, you know, inland from Oakland. They took me over to San Francisco, gave me the tour and everything. And they said, by the way, you got to hear this singer. His name's Steve Perry, and he's really good. And that's where I first heard you back all those years ago. And now, you know, it sort of comes full circle after all these years getting to talk to you. And I remember going home saying, there's this guy out in California, Steve Perry, he's really good. I never heard him here on the East Coast, but when I was out in California, out in San Fran, you were singing about the Golden Gate Bridge and all that good stuff. So
Yeah. What was your friend's name?
My friend's name was David.
Well, you tell David, thank you for introducing the music to you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then one of my first memories of your music. Hey, let's do it. Why don't we play the new song, and let's hope that we get to see you come here to the Jersey Shore, come to Jersey pretty soon, and maybe do this album for us.
I would love that.
Cool.
Hey, Steve, if folks want more information about your new project, your new music, how do they get a hold of Steve Perry on the web?
Well, StevePerry.com is up and running. I am a internet mofo now.
There you go. And of course,
Oh, my goodness.
you can also check out the music, the song and the album dropping, and it's called Traces, the album. Here's No Erasing. Steve, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Shawn. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, honey. Have a good one, Steve.
There
Bye-bye,
he
dear.
is. Steve
Bye-bye.
Perry, ladies and gentlemen. No Erasing. Here it is, his latest on WOBM.